The Warriors have now won 7 of their last 10 games, on the season up to 500 and firmly in a play-in spot, with some more room to continue rising the ranks. The reason I'm focused on those 10 games is because that's when they decided to make a key adjustment, starting Draymond Green at center, which may have just saved their season. Before moving Draymond to the 5, the Warriors were giving up 119 points every 100 possessions, 25th in the NBA, and since making that change, they've held opponents under 110, 3rd in the NBA. The key to having Dre at the 5 is that it means he's in the middle of the floor, and he's the closest thing to a middle linebacker in basketball. Traditionally, you want your primary rim protector to be as big as possible, but he's just 6'6", yet he still shuts off the paint through perfect positioning. On this one, he comes multiple feet above the 3-point line to not let Maxey turn the corner. Then once the attack starts, notice how he positions himself in a way that both takes away a pass to the roller and allows him to sit in Maxey's driving lane. The result is a step back midi. He'll just patrol the middle as a free roamer, almost serving as a nuisance for whoever has the ball. D'Lo has no angle to attack out of the post because that guy won't leave him alone, and he's forced to settle for a much tougher turnaround jumper. It seems like whenever the offense tries to create anything, he's just always there, this time forcing a kickout to a 28% 3-point shooter. It's not just the IQ and positional awareness to be in the right spot, but the agility to get there. Watch him on this one. As soon as it looks like DeJounte might have a lane, he darts in front of the ball, forcing him to pick up his dribble before blocking a floater. The idea here is that you don't need a big-time rim presence on the floor if teams never get there, and they do an amazing job of making their opponents live in the mid-range. It's the same thing against the pick and roll, where Draymond spends almost all of his time in drop coverage. Like I said, typically these guys are giants, Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, Brook Lopez, but Draymond's positioning is just incredible. His point of attack defender gets glued to the screen, so he slides in front of a potential drive, giving up a pass to the roller with the agility and length to recover and go vertical. Here's another one that starts with him shadowing the ball and making sure there's no angle to drive, but he never overcommits to Reeves because he knows Clay can recover. No advantage created, and all of a sudden the shot quality doesn't look so good. Not overcommitting is another key to playing drop coverage, and he trusts his wing defenders to do their jobs. Kuminga never gets touched by the screen, so instead of sitting in front of a drive, he takes away a pass. Again, no good look at the basket. It's only in the event that there is no real chance for the point of attack guy to recover that he'll jump out in a switch, and he's no traffic cone on the perimeter. This play starts with him dropping against a pick and pop, and he ends up communicating a switch. Then Keontae George tries to take him one-on-one, but forgot to consider that he's probably a tougher matchup than the original defender. That's not to say he can't still get beat off the dribble, and when that happens, you'll see the corner man drop early to offer resistance in the paint. From there, the wing scrambles to recover to that now unattended corner and actually blocks the three. Here's another example. Siakam has the much smaller Podziemski on him in the post, and Draymond roams over from the middle to not let him attack one-on-one. Then when it's kicked out to Turner, he closes out hard but gets beat. What I want you to focus on is both Steph and Podziemski, immediately putting their bodies in front of the ball, which results in a charge. Anytime someone gets blown by in space, those corner defenders are quick and ready to jump in front of it. Like I said, if they can force shots away from the rim, size isn't as much of an issue. And just like when he's waiting in the middle, Draymond is quite literally always there. As soon as Maxey drives, here he comes from the strong side corner to cut him off before meeting him with verticality. I mentioned his combination of length and agility. Those two qualities allow him to cover lots of ground. Not only is he ready to rotate down to the rim, but quick enough to close out to the top of the key for a contest. It's not just Draymond though. The biggest benefit of not having a true 5 on the court is how much speed you can have in your defense. Here's a play that starts with Draymond in drop coverage, and Steph as the low man slides down to tag a potential roll. When a skip pass is made, he's quick enough to get back to his man and get a hand up on the 3. The weak side defender pretty much always pre-rotates. As the pick and roll sets up, you can see Podziemski calling for Wiggins to cover the corner while he steps over to take away Capella. With Draymond again positioning himself perfectly, the play ends in a pretty bad shot. Aggressively rotating doesn't mean over-helping though. As Wiggins defends in isolation, you can see that Draymond and Steph both get ready to make that rotation, but don't fully commit unless they have to. Then when Pascal kicks it out, Steph's still able to give an effective closeout. This one starts with Kuminga chasing his man over the top of a screen, which puts him in rear pursuit. Draymond could slide over and leave Davis for a corner three. Instead, he decides to dig for just a second while Kuminga recovers. Like I said, he's always there, but doesn't put himself in bad situations. He'll make his presence known by being in the right spot without giving up something else. And that sort of goes for everyone. It doesn't matter who's the first helper or who's defending on the ball, there's a level of trust amongst the defense. Watch Draymond on this one. Siakam again has Podziemski on an island, but he doesn't want to overcommit and put himself out of position. At the exact moment the ball gets knocked loose, he immediately jumps over and calls for a switch, fixing the matchups so that he can defend Pascal himself, and the result is a turnover. Switching is another big key to this defense, but not in the sense that they use that to cover every action. Their most used lineups keep Clay, Wiggins, and Kuminga on the floor, 3 switchable wings, so when those guys are screened by each other's man, they'll just switch to prevent any advantages. These switches are always timely and seamless. Clay's man sets one on Kuminga, and Sexton tries to turn the corner on a drive, but with a good switch, there really isn't a lane to attack. You'll have these possessions where it's like they're telepathically communicating. Draymond starts on the ball. As soon as the screen comes, Kuminga jumps out. Then on the second, Podziemski jumps out, once again resulting in a lower percentage midi. It's important to keep in mind though that they want to keep Dre in the middle, so even though he can switch, he'll sit back in that drop coverage. It all comes down to the ability to execute the right coverage at the right time. Draymond's back and drop, so the Grizzlies try something else, with Steph's man screening Wiggins, and those two are comfortable switching as long as Dre's down low. David Roddy tries to take it all the way, but with no success. There's still some other stuff that has to go right to make these smaller lineups work, such as executing on the defensive glass. They've done a great job of boxing out and closing possessions, primarily thanks to the athleticism of guys like Wiggins and Kuminga as their forwards. It's clear to me that even in a small sample, Draymond at the 5 has lit a fire under this defense. With that said, he's playing under 30 minutes a game since moving to center, meaning they still have over 18 minutes to account for. Those can go to any one of Looney, Saric, or Trace Jackson Davis depending on the matchup, while the same sort of tactics and such still apply against bench units. The only difference? No middle linebacker covering every little thing. Still, they've had one of the best defenses in the NBA since making that adjustment, and that's something you can always fall back on. But they've also been really good offensively. On that end, I don't really think much has changed as of recent. They're doing the exact same things that they've been doing for years, but I want to highlight some of what stood out. For one, Steph's been on an absolute heater. He turns 36 years old in a month, yet continues to show how ageless his game truly is. Then you've got the ascension of Jonathan Kuminga. I actually made a separate video on him if you want to watch that, but I'll give you the spark notes here. He has these unique physical and athletic tools that make him a good slasher, interior finisher, and one of the best transition players in the league. As long as they don't ask him to make a ton of tough decisions, he's gonna fit like a glove in Golden State's system. Also, Wiggins is finally hitting a stride of his own. After a really poor start, the shots are falling, he looks more comfortable, but who I really want to talk about is Brandon Podziemski, who's been playing 33 minutes a game for them. If you just looked at his averages, you probably wouldn't be too impressed, but this guy's a hooper. It's hard to teach feel for the game, and that's what he brings to the motion offense. He'll pretty much always make the right pass, cut, or screen, and he's a really good finisher, which goes a long way when playing in such a team-oriented system. What I will say changes by moving Draymond to the 5 is I think that they can play a little faster when they want to. They're always going to be a team that wants to run and gun, but with one less big on the floor, that's another spot being filled by someone more mobile, giving them another weapon. I also think that they have more space to operate in the half court. Instead of having to find ways to work around playing two non-shooters, they can go back to Draymond in the middle with everything kind of revolving around him, which has shown to be a recipe of success for years. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think anything's really changed for them from a tactics standpoint, and that's reflected in the numbers. Before moving Draymond to the 5, they had the number 11 offense at just under 119 points per 100, and since then, they've been at 119.5, ninth in the league. The difference is that a top 10 or so offense with a bottom 6 defense isn't going to give you results. What will, though, is that offense with a top 3 defense. Over their last 10 games, they've outscored opponents by a net rating of +9, 4th in the league. We'll have to see how this lineup change continues to hold up in a larger sample and against better teams, but there's a pretty good chance that they may have just saved their season, continuing to climb the standings. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the Warriors. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.